For generations, the Israelites had lived as slaves in Egypt, suffering under the harsh rule of Pharaoh. But God had heard their cries, and he had a plan to set his people free. Moses stood before Pharaoh and delivered God's command. "Let my people go." But Pharaoh's heart remained hard. He refused to release the Israelites. Then came the final plague, and Egypt was filled with fear. Pharaoh finally allowed God's people to leave. The Egyptians even gave them gold, silver, and clothing as they prepared for their journey. At last, thousands of Israelites began leaving Egypt. Families carried their belongings, children walked beside their parents, and their animals followed behind them. After generations of slavery, they were finally on their way to freedom. Moses led them into the wilderness, trusting the God who had called him. And God did not leave them alone. During the day, a great pillar of cloud guided their journey. When darkness covered the wilderness, a pillar of fire illuminated their path. Wherever they went, God's presence remained with them. Eventually, the Israelites reached the shores of the Red Sea. Before them stood an enormous body of water stretching far into the distance. They had nowhere to cross. And then, something terrifying happened. Pharaoh had changed his mind. He gathered his soldiers, his horses, and his mighty chariots. His army began racing through the desert, determined to bring the Israelites back. The sound of the approaching chariots grew louder. When the Israelites looked behind them, they saw Pharaoh's army coming toward them. Fear spread throughout the camp. Men, women, and children cried out. Before them was the sea. Behind them was Pharaoh's army. There seemed to be absolutely nowhere to escape. But Moses stood before the people. He did not run. He did not surrender. He trusted God. Then a mighty cloud moved between the Israelites and the Egyptian army. The Egyptians were unable to reach God's people, while the Israelites remained under God's protection. Then God commanded Moses to stretch out his staff over the sea. Moses raised his staff. A powerful wind began sweeping across the waters. The waves moved. The sea began to separate. And then the impossible happened. The waters opened before the Israelites, rising like enormous walls on both sides. A dry path appeared where there had only been deep water. The people could hardly believe what they were seeing. They stepped forward. Men, women, children, and their animals began walking through the middle of the Red Sea, with towering walls of water standing on either side of them. One by one, the Israelites reached the other side safely. But Pharaoh's army followed them into the sea. The Egyptian soldiers and chariots entered the miraculous pathway, believing they could still capture God's people. Then Moses stretched out his staff once again. The waters began to return. The sea closed over the path, and Pharaoh's pursuit came to an end. On the opposite shore, the Israelites stood in amazement. What had looked like an impossible situation had become one of the greatest miracles they had ever witnessed. They had been trapped, but God made a way. They had been afraid, but God protected them. They had been slaves, but now they were free. And that is the power of trusting God even when you cannot see a way forward. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Scripture Flame Studios for more powerful Bible stories.